Yeah, man, this is Danny Dreadlock telling you say the time has come for the lion story to be heard, you know? Here, there, and everywhere. Have no fear. The lion story. And this is the lion voice. Seeing production every time.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice. Yeah, I'm a Gideon. Cataclysmic forces, good over evil. Yeah, for the ghetto youth worldwide. I see the youths nowadays, they growing up. Wanna know the truth, they wanna know what's up. They got no fear now, they'll call you bluff. They asking questions cause they had enough. Why? Some gone astray cause times is tough. Some walk with the machine, ready to bust. I'ma give you that things get dangerous. No, in the ghetto things get dangerous. On the battlefield things get dangerous. Them carry RPG, M16. Got a problem to wipe out your whole team. For American dream, them get scanned and lost. Them put us into the ghetto, try abandon us. Cause we the remnant of the first sons of Kush. Warrior tribes, we not the ones that push. Just look into them history, see we rebellious. That's cause them systems so unjust. Take the shackles and chains, change them to handcuffs. Release your physical frame, them want your brain. Them a vampire looking for blood to drain. Highly Selassie come and break every chain. Bob Marley tell them, now we tell them again, yo. We tell them this ain't a game, but this a Armageddon, you got to mentally train. Yeah, I tell them this ain't a game, but this is heaven on earth, or go burn in the flames. Yeah, I tell them this ain't a game, I say I gotta play your hate cause some things gotta change. I tell them this ain't a game, but this a time for African people to rise. I tell them earthquake, hurricane, tornado, the wind blows and brings rains. I got the whole west coast in flames. Melt the Arctic poles and flood the seas. Hurricane force winds blow down the trees. Whole earth feel the pain when the bombs release. Read your psalms, release David prophecies. Marcus Garvey said look to the east. Rastafari is the prince of peace. And Haile Selassie I come conquer the beast, yo. They trap the youths with them luxuries to get the ladies. Gotta drive Mercedes, people killing babies. Try to keep us down with AIDS. We descended from kings, now we surround with plague. Man, I kill them brother, man, to drive the Escalades. I can't stand Babylon and all the mess they made. Teach the youths that them best when them rest in the grave. Wolf trick the lion, got the lion a shade. Can't reach Mount Zion unless you learn to behave. Got to stand firm cause these is perilous days. Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie the First. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chasmach Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney. I'm an author. I'm an artist. I'm an actionist. Right now, I'm the host of Lion Talk Live. Welcome to the Lion Voice Network and welcome to Lion Talk Live, where we reason with the frontline soldiers on the battlefield, Rastafari and the Pan-African family. We have celebrities, but oftentimes we don't hear from the people doing the quiet, tedious work in the background, who toil at night when people are asleep, who leave their children because of the call, the Almighty, without any compensation. This is the platform where we get to hear their voice, because the time has come for the lions and the lionesses to tell their story. Tonight, we're going to talk about Ganja, persecution. We're going to talk about what Rastafari is going through for their sacramental Ganja rights. We had a historic judgment that came down from the Jamaica court on one of our Lion Talk Live alumnus, Ras Negos. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about
the protests that have been happening, coordinated by the RMO and Raga in Jamaica. We're going to talk about that. We have a very special guest, one of my brethren, one of my colleagues. So we're going to bring forward powerful reasoning um, in one moment. Before we get into the topic, I want to just big up the Lion Pride, big up the Lion Pride on Patreon, the ones who support the platform, 5, 10, $25 every month. Give thanks for those who see the vision, Rastafari Media, and I controlling our own narrative. It's important and crucial as we go into this repatriation in this Armageddon, Iowa, that our communication channels, particularly among the core of I. Yes, give thanks for the branches and in time when it gone out there and it's massive, but particularly for I as the root, the core family throughout the globe. We want to make sure we have a clear communication. We know what's happening with each other, and that we are having an undiluted, unapologetic Rastafari Pan-African voice. This is the platform that we're building here on the second largest search engine on the internet, family. A serious thing we are dealing with. So big up Ramia King Design, big up CMAS Life, big up everyone who has been supporting Rases, Jazanai Kush. We're just coming forward from Miami, Florida. This is the first live that we're doing. And trust I, go down to Miami. I went through the airport. The airport was full of soldiers, full military gear, FaceTiming their loved ones, saying their goodbyes to the loved ones. The reality of the times we're living in hit in terms of this Armageddon. So don't bother feel like this is going to be easy. It's not being televised, but we are here in war, in a state of war globally. Inflation, shipping lanes, all of these things. So this sacramental ganja conversation, I want I family to think about it in the scope of the larger global context that's happening, not only for mental health, the sacrament, but also the economics of us controlling our sacrament and these things. So we're going to get deep into it, family. So big up, everyone. It's a great pleasure to introduce. I met this brethren working during the time of the Smithsonian, and there was the Rastafari Millennium Council, and I as legal counsel from different regions came together to start to collaborate to see how we could develop a unity. I've spent many hours reasoning with this brethren, drafting documents back and forth. I was even just agitating and I realized that, wow, say, it's over a decade coming on to 20 years. I know the brethren from 2007 till now. Whole heap of time that. So, you know what I mean? Constantly doing the work. And is a brethren where remind I of ourselves is a reflection, because the time that the brethren puts into the community work, again, self-evident, I'm on similar. So, family, help I to welcome our guest for the evening, attorney Marcus Goff. Welcome, family.
Yes, I give
Yes.
thanks. Give thanks for the invitation. Give thanks for the gathering online and for the iWorks, and give thanks to be here.
Yeah, man. Give thanks for the eye presence. Like myself, family man, you can hear the children in the forward, so just think of that as background music. The reality, and I think it underscores the seriousness of the work that we're doing. It's not just working for I and I self, but we have generations that we have to think about as we do this work. So I want I just before we get into the topic of this evening, I like to introduce our guests and go through the journey so that we're not just two talking heads. People can understand that there was a journey to get to where the I is. So talk to us about the I, where the I was born, and the I journey to Rastafari.
Right, all right. So Born in Kingston, Jamaica. Been here for most of my life. And in school we always love history. And history a lot in the Caribbean is very much focused on Africa, and slavery, colonialism, plantation society and such. So learning about those things from early, from a young age, really, it kind of struck me that this thing, named slavery and such, really, really go on to true, and you really I think that it's something where, it kind of, connect, say ancestrally, you know what I mean? And from that, I kind of have a profound kind of, feeling towards that, and one of them great injustice deserving of, So I think in that early teenage years around that, and realizing within society, same way, that you have class and racial distinctions, what I mean, and such again, these things coming from that whole slavery and colonization mindset, and so forth. Just to say there's a bigger mission outside of just own development, your own career and personal achievement, realize there's really a bigger mission towards justice for African people, African descendants, for that terrible, terrible, centuries of atrocities where we still feel the effects right now, very, very powerfully, So I think it's that kind of emergence out of Jamaica, being a one from the 70s, you know what I mean? Born in the 70s in Jamaica, you kind of come up in a time where, you come out of Black Power time, in the US and in the West, you come out of, strong Rastafari presence through the music and just Rastafari rise in the island, and the region, So there was, I think, forces were very much around in the 80s, and the 90s when I really cite Rastafari, Rastafari who lie in that framework, you know what I mean? So that kind of political mindset and outset now, when we start to get exposed to Rastafari and research Rastafari, history, anciency, the truths where the Rastafari ancients, them, I always I tell you when we go amongst them at them feet and things, different Ayabingi and gatherings, Bobo Shanti, 12 tribe and all around, we go back and research them thing that, what I mean, go back in the library and so forth, different place and research and really verify and prove the truth of the Rastafari, you know, for real. And so from from an early age, I would have said teenage years, 16, 17, I already said Rastafari from them time in high school,
Where did I go to high school?
I'm a Campion College man.
Okay.
At the Campion
Because
College,
our Jamaican viewers would want to know I have Campion in my family too.
All right.
You know what I mean? Big up Emil as a Campion man. So we give thanks for that. So while you're at Campion, and there's a lot of Rastafari, what is the energy at Campion? It seemed like a lot of Rasta that had Stephen Nolan is a Campion man. He was up here. What's going on? Kabaka is a Campion man. All of them man there. What's
Right. I
happening
give.
at Campion?
Yes, true. Well, I must say, I think, certainly, I must say, growing in the uptown, right? But in a context where we are learning about the historic atrocities and so forth, and you are see it, you know what I mean? So yeah, Camden is one of them school that were again reflect the society, So you have, I would say, certainly in my time and historically too, you know, class and race distinctions, among student population, among staff and so forth. Historically, again, reflecting the society. So these things you're learning about, you're seeing the effects of same time, and you're
Yes.
living within it. You know what I mean? And you see it for yourself. You know what I mean? So if these are things that really, connect with you, as me I said, connect with your DNA, then really, through ancestors, you know what I mean, identify with them thing there. Then you can
Yes.
see manifest front you in those type of spaces, and that can energize ones,
What was the impact? Because I come from a prominent legal family in Jamaica. I find these things out as I'm treading and I'm seeing the Goff name on television and running into other attorneys and reasoning and them say, yeah man, there's a high reputation, a high standard that the Goff name stand for in terms of the legal world. What was that like when they start embrace Rastafari, within the I family?
I think it was for many definitely a concern, because again, Rastafari historically, as we know, within the hierarchical society, where, as the remnant of still from colonization find us in, then Rastafari is something that one's from a certain segment that even from a cross section of Jamaica actually, because in them time, you talk about, rich, poor, black, white, lower, middle,
Yeah,
high, everybody, fight the Rastaman and the Rastafari doctrine, what I mean,
yeah,
emphasis on
yeah.
Africa and Emperor that's the first, and Ganja, you know, these things really make enough ones fearful, and so I think within that, I think a family or certain members of the family would have been concerned about that, you know, again maybe because again that stigma Rastafari is seen sometimes as ones who again in society people feel like don't want to work, children
Yes,
every overstand to withdraw from the system, to
yes,
protest, and knowing say righteousness must prevail, what I mean, one see it as maybe I don't want to work, smoke ganja all day, some of these type of
yes.
narratives that
Misconception,
say, you know,
misconception.
from again coming forward, coming from prior Coral Gardens, come down since Coral Gardens even more intensified. We still have them stigma in society, both in school, in the workplace, as far as moving through, you have locks, you have beard, you know what I mean? You talk something different from Christian church, ganja, drumming, so all these things, Rastafari, very different and recognizably so, right? And so
Yes,
society always, ones who fearful again, and of course in a colonial mindset, the Africa context always feel revolutionary, right? That is
yeah,
what is
man.
the whole plantation society afraid of, afraid of the rising up of the majority African who've been oppressed historically, right? And enslaved as commodities by the minority white class, right? So
Yes,
that tension still exists. These type
still
of
exists.
energies still run with the land. Them things are not gonna leave, even though ones might transition. These energies, transcend through, I say, ancestral and DNA memory. You know,
Mhm.
through institutions that still exist, through laws that still exist, and policies that still exist that perpetuate these type of colonial mindsets.
How old was the I when the I put on your covenant? Did he put on your covenant at Campion or after you left high school?
We couldn't really do it at Campion in terms of the rules of the school at that time. That like over
Okay.
Rastafari family and some
Yes.
of them thing that really, you could barely have beard in Campion. You can barely have mustache in these type of ways. Like I know here is an affront as well. I know what once have
Wow.
with here too much here, them feel as a affront to the colonial empire. So
Wow.
beard that, but plus then I'm still as a beard come up still, a little bit of stuff we
Yeah.
got here and there, a little bit of, what I mean. So, but yeah, man, definitely, the mind was there. I just know, I mean, say leave sixth form, go
Yeah.
into UA now, and from there, I had the freedom to really express.
Okay. So on campus, you were going lots on campus.
Yes, sir.
Was Dr. Knife on campus at that time?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I'm kind of that as, Rastafari presence on campus strong.
What about King Kamal? Was he on campus at that time?
I never know he come out from campus.
Okay.
Before, probably before me. Yeah.
Okay. But yes. So, and the reason I'm doing this family is because, again, when we get into the topic, I want to see where the passion comes from, why the sacrifice. Ones have their own story, and this brethren of your name is one of the names that call very frequent out there. So I'm glad that I get to speak your own story. People can hear from the eye because voice note this that you hear the brethren name, but we seldom get to hear directly from the brethren about who he is and his contribution to the movement, which is a lot. History going to have to write about the works. Now that being said, now after Huey, what was the direction that the I went in terms of you're on campus, you embrace the faith.
Right,
What
right.
journey?
Well, all right. So them time with Yui, you studying law, you have to go to Barbados. So
Okay, I
that's
didn't know.
also an important part of my journey because as Jamaica, enough time we up as big island in the north to itself as such, and really fully understand the whole connection through the region. Through
Yes,
ancestry again, history, context, economics, everything. Environment. So going to Barbados, studying for 2 years, really gave me a good grounding in Eastern Caribbean identity, and connection, and realizing says really very much the same. There's maybe different stages of the impact of slavery and colonization in different territories. So give thanks for that experience still. Nowadays you don't have to do that when you're studying law through UE, but at that time that was an important
that's
requirement.
what that's why I wasn't aware because I know about Norman Manley Law School, so I wasn't aware that.
Right. Well, it's Dewey Campus. It's Dewey Campus, but in Barbados. You know what I mean? So,
So were there other races on campus at that time when the I went, or was the I one of the only or the only Ras?
I would say about a few. About a few. I mean, maybe not firm like because I was the only one from Jamaica, but you have other
Yes,
ones who coming up really within the Caribbean. Yeah, man. First of all, Aboriginal, we know till now to from Bahamas, and St. Lucia, I mean, Dominica, So, yeah, man, the Caribbean, Rastafari is strong in the Caribbean. Strong in the Caribbean, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
man, yeah, man.
And yeah, I think I'm gonna say all of the same situation as different port or bus stop to come off up on the journey on the transatlantic, but our family same way.
All right. So then, coming forward to Jamaica, what was your professional path, and then also spiritually? Because one of the things, when I was in law school and undergrad, I was called directly into the Nyabingi order. It's after a time I learned about 12 tribe, all of this. But we start as Ayabingi and continue to this day. The I've never known the I. The I just is a Rastafari brethren. What was the I spiritual journey coming forward into Jamaica, and then also your professional. How did I start to relate to the culture, and then also professionally, what was the I journey?
So yeah, I mean, as Rastafari youth, and youth and that part toward Rastafari, we never limit ourselves, in terms of who we go around, because we say we're hungry for information, for knowledge, and want to really learn and sit at the feet of ones, and just taking reasoning and humble yourself to, what I mean, benefit and see how Rastafari can teach you in terms of what we know is required. So doing that, I really went. I said to Nyabingim, got to 12 Jan, got to Bobo Shanti. We really spend good time at each. You know what I mean? And really move around the community a lot in them type of stage. Because being a student, you have whole of time, you know, outside studying and things.
Yes,
So
yes,
whole of a
yes.
movement around Jamaica. You know what I mean? Where Rastafari is concerned. So I guess, yeah, I never identify myself with any one particular tribe. I always feel very, very welcome and as a family of all, you know what I mean? And committed to empowering and empowerment of all, you know what I mean? That's what I always say the work. So I've always been have myself available to do works, one
Yes.
approach me, one assistance and so forth, outside of membership and so forth. I always make myself available to assist all Rastafari.
And I've witnessed that. Kingdom of Deborah Z say, ask him if the British Crown is still the visitor at UII. I'm not sure even what that mean. I don't know. Do you know what that mean?
Which comes to the visitor at UWI, not sure. No, not sure which crown or which maybe royal family member, not sure.
Okay. I don't. Oh, maybe I not sure what the I mean. Kingdom of Deborah Z, but give thanks. Put your questions in the comment section. We're gonna get deep into the reasoning family. We have attorney Marcus Goff here. If you're not subscribed to the platform, go and subscribe to the platform as we build this journey. So, in terms of what was your first professional job outside of law school?
Outside of law school, right. So when I left law school, I went and joined my mother in chambers.
Okay.
My mother was a senior lawyer doing land law and conveyancing, as we call it. So I went and joined her chambers, um, and spent several years there, which is on Duke Street in the heart of the legal district, as we call it, in Kingston.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, but at the same time, really maintaining my own practice as well,
Okay.
doing criminal law, very much of court work in those years, civil and criminal, in the parish court, Supreme Court, gun court, and
Okay.
so forth, and really learning from that corridor, that Duke Street corridor
Duke Street
in
corridor.
Kingston is an important corridor in terms of law and legal minds, So work with a lot of seniors in those years,
Okay.
very nurturing, senior legal counsel and thing.
Were
And
you
really
doing
gained the
ganja
skill.
related cases in those days?
If what?
Were you doing ganja related cases in those days, in those early days, doing criminal
Yeah,
law?
yeah, definitely. Ganja has always been a big part of the criminal justice system, but I would say most of the time, those days, is small amounts, that really I would assist ones with the one who come to me about, and oftentimes in those times, mostly is that you plead guilty, and
Yes.
a small fine. Them time the judge will fine you like $100, you know, um, fee a small amount, ounce or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So that was really what a lot of the system was really comprised of, when I get arrested for spliff, when I get arrested for $50 bag, bills bag, you know what I mean? Sometimes I end up spend, I say, rarely still, but sometimes I end up spend night in jail and these things, you know what I mean? For ganja. So most time is that, most time possession, dealing, not so much cultivation,
Okay. And
Uh,
explain the difference between the different charges. We have possession, dealing, cultivation. Explain those terms because they're going to come in important as we continue into this discussion. So just give us a general explanation of those terms.
right. Well, possession of ganja speaks to having it in your possession, or on you, or in premises that you control, or a vehicle that you control. They'll charge you for possession. You know what I mean? Which I'm saying is a very common offense, because that's the basic offense. And, we start with possession, then it might be other charges now that
Okay.
accompany it. So dealing generally, they would speak to, you know, showing some evidence of transacting in the sale of ganja, right? Normally through them persons selling, or there's an exchange of cash, or there's other evidence like how the ganja is packaged, as if it is to be distributed commercially for sale and such. Those is what they normally then charge you for dealing on top of the possession. You know,
Okay.
cultivation. I mean, it really means farming, of course, right? So it's really cultivating, based on seed that you have either been cultivating for yourself or somebody else's farm. That you are found to have been involved with, right? And sometimes can it just be a one plant too? I mean, the charge would you ban for cultivating, It's coming to cultivating. So one plant, outside the
Wow.
studio. That's so, what I mean? Again, them thing a big crime and serious crime. I mean, historically, you also want to go to prison for them thing there.
Wow.
A bit like felonies, what I mean? Some of the more serious crimes. So ganja coming a far away when it comes to the law, how the law has treated and dealt with ganja. You know what I mean? Again, it's not Jamaica alone, as we know, is a global thing. The globe get kind of tricked into vilifying and criminalizing ganja. The people who engage with ganja, you know what I mean? And it's caused a whole generation of intergenerational trauma, and again, a legacy that we have still not really know engaging with, And that's something that is also a part of, I think, justice for ganja, for the plant and for users, for these many generations of stigmatization and criminalization, what I mean, and lies, misinformation, and these type of things perpetuated on the people, how much families this thing mash up.
Wow.
Rastafari and grassroots families to come go to court in them time that it's not only Rastaman, of course, it's enough
I was gonna
youths
ask
and
you what
boys
type of
and man
people.
and woman.
Yes.
Enough one charge for ganja. You know what I mean? I've been known to say it has been the lifeblood of people in Jamaica and other parts because of this, again, economic, structures of slavery and colonization. Right?
Give us some of the. And we're gonna come forward to the I story because I want to get into the IP. Because your IP resume is also very impressive. So we want to touch that. But before we go there, so give us a history of the plant and the relationship. Why in British this British colony, we're coming from pre-independence, was this plant criminalized? We know in the US, in the 1930s and the whole thing, but in terms of the British system, and if you may not know the details, but if you know what was the history of why cannabis was criminalized, within the British system, do you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, historically, the the criminalization of cannabis, they say, started from concerns that Indian hemp was rising too much amongst the Indian population. That
Okay.
time India is still a British colony, you know, and so this Indian hemp thing was really localized as that issue, and this was brought forward as a concern to the British, right? So, in that respect, it's the British who brought this thing to the United Nations as a concern. Really, just they were at that time asking, as I recall, for some further studies to be done, to inquire into this thing because the international drug conventions were never looking at marijuana at all, you know,
Okay.
right? But this is what came on the table as an Indian hemp query, a request for research, and somewhere along the lines now, it seems from what the records show, even inadvertently, this thing turned into now including Indian hemp on this list of prohibited substances, you know what I mean? Um, and things. So, again, based on, let's say, the impact it had on the Indian population or some segments of the Indian population, right? So, that is really how nationally in the UK and in the UK colonies, and then through that internationally, we had this criminalization of ganja. Of course, I mean, we know the pharmaceutical side to that as well, too, right? Which would have, lobbied for that because, of course, we know said there was a time when cannabis was recognized across the world as very valuable medicine, indispensable for every medicine
Yes.
chest. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yes.
And so how that acceptance now turned into the criminalization of the plant, right? um, Again, through Indian hemp concern and thing, really to me, again, reflect a kind of racial root of this thing. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Because if it
Uh,
was a situation where there was feelings that it was happening in London or happening amongst white populations or so forth, maybe it wouldn't have had this concern, you know what I mean? But this non-white population, this drug that they seem to, have a great affinity for and to seem to disturb the status quo, right?
yes.
Legal and politically. And that's how it ended up being that way. If you see how ganja come through the US criminalization, then we see it's the Mexican then. Them
Yeah.
pin it up now. To say,
But
well, oh,
that's what I was going to say. And even the timeline tracks, because in the US, it was the late 1930s with the Marijuana Taxation Act. They changed the name of cannabis to marijuana, which was a Mexican weed to make it more exotic. And then you're talking about the UN, which of course is the 1940s. So, because I was going to ask, do you think the United States had something to do in terms of the US lobby has always been against the plant because of the commercial interests? And perhaps the US lobbying on an international level to have that Indian hemp included. I'm speculating, of course, but it would track in terms of the timeline, you know what I mean?
yeah.
With how they dealt with the plant. So very, very serious. Hold on there 1 second. We have Aya Gift on the check-in. Heights up, I love it. Big up yourself, Aya Gift. Dottie Boatman checking in. I always wondered why the possession of a chalice chilling pipe was a felony offense when it was not the actual ganja. I can answer that question, and then we continue.
Yeah, so yeah, man, because the plant and possession of it is prohibited, and smoking of it is even worse prohibited, right? Then any utensils and paraphernalia that is then used for the smoking of it and facilitating or encouraging possession of it then also gets criminalized. You know what I mean? So chillum pipe again a serious offense. Back in them days, then if you talk to ancient like was as Purity, if thanks as Purity, then we'd have said we a long history of serious prison sentences ones are picking up simply for being found with a chillum pipe. You know what I mean? And again, based off of a lot of dubious science that one's put into here, mind, yes, very much coming through the US again. How this is your brain and drugs and things that with ganja and so forth, and
Yes.
what I mean. So it creates this hysteria, right? And of course, a big part of it too, I mean, say within Jamaica context, again, is Coral Gardens. Because Coral Gardens kind of left out of the ganja history here in Jamaica, because Coral Garden was at a vital point too in Jamaica's history when the government now, right, in trying to use Rastafari as scapegoat and blame Rastafari, blame ganja as well, Yes, so after Coral Gardens, not only was all Rastafari, all beardsman targeted, right, for extinction, but the ganja plant was also targeted for extinction. The criminal law was changed almost immediately within months after Coral Gardens, to make sure there was stiffer penalties, what we call strict liability. So not allowing for any kind of defenses, but from your possession, some mandatory prison terms, where we say, well, you take away the judge's discretion and say that you must give this sentence for these kind of offenses, So all of it again has been historically a tool used politically and legally to control and to marginalize, people of color.
Serious thing we are talking about. So, young Marcus Goff returns to the island as a Ras, representing the people, going to court. You're working with your mother's law office as well. Where does the passion, or where does the aids for intellectual property begin?
Right. All right. Good question. Good question. Right. So, after working extensively in the courts in Jamaica, primarily criminal courts, seeing a lot of youths in the system in and out, you know what I mean? And so concerned about that on the one part, and of course also being a youth who musically inclined from youth, really, Yeah.
We never touch that part. They said, yeah, it's
No, you
something
don't
you have
touch
to
that part
tell
there at all.
people, somebody tell for you.
And I'm not saying the musical person me, I'm saying that part there. But yeah, man, from a little bit me I sing with choir and orchestra.
Okay,
From
okay.
Woolman's Prep. Yeah,
Yes.
me sing with choir,
Me here
orchestra.
said,
Love
yeah, I can drum
ACDC,
too. Me here, you're a
and
drummer
gunshine
too.
music. Eh?
Me here said, yeah, he's a drummer.
Yeah, I start drum now in my later years, yes. No,
Okay.
actually, no, I start drum from about from about 8 years old, I start drum for true. But that was
Okay.
trap set drumming.
Yes.
That is a trap set, yes. We start play keyboard as well to do with the follow it up.
Okay,
unfortunately.
okay.
But from
But
very young
because
thing, I
I
learned
was in a
to do.
band too. There was in a band too.
Yes, I have a band. Yes, for true. I'm in a law school with a band, and outside of law school, I'm just come out of law school. Yeah, definitely as well too. So yeah, man. Definitely. So that was always there as well too. So
Yes.
wanting to know so we can empower ones to be self-reliant through their creativity is important. What I mean? The important way to be able to have ones liberate themselves from the system. Not to depend upon a 9 to 5 or on a gear job if you can accentuate our creative talent, right? And I myself seeing ones go through the criminal justice system enough time. And there was a case in particular, I remember, where, fight to get one youth off of one terrible, terrible criminal job. And a young youth too, you know. And I tell you, so we get the youth off of that case, they were like, a non-custodial sentence. You know what I mean? And within like I tell you, within the space of 4 to 5 weeks, my sister called me and tell me said the man back in the jail again. So my
Mm.
sister, well, we have to find a next way to be able to assist nobody's youth because them come out of the system. Whether them serve them time or not, they're going back into the same community, the same environment where opportunities are limited, where oftentimes the gun and the guns are very attractive and very alluring, right? Unless you have some other avenue for income generation and independence, you're gonna have those youth be vulnerable, same way as to where they were. And just, cycle, community, gang, jail, you know, police station, prison, courthouse. It kind of very, very, for some,
Yes.
it's a routine. So that I think really I wanted to be able to get more proficient and to learn and hone those skills in intellectual property, entertainment law, copyright, music law, these things. And so I really chose to do a master's now in that area to kind of sharpen up and get some skills in that area particularly.
Okay. And then from the masters, were you able to apply? I know that the music industry in Jamaica is very difficult in terms of getting ones to seek representation. It's still very much a hustling culture, but there are entertainment attorneys that are doing well. Were you able to practice in entertainment law after obtaining your master's?
So I have been doing intimate law prior to my masters.
Okay.
Of course, I had the band. I was not only a part of, but I was managing the band, playing drum in the band
Okay.
one time, singing, also managing the band too. So I was doing contracts for the band as well too.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I had done contracts for other artists as well too in them time there. Sometimes
Yes.
producer come check me one to write song and don't get no royalty upon it. You know what I mean? So I was
Yes.
doing a bit of that from them time there still because I'm saying, yeah, Rasta law, you're going to have ones who have approached you to assist with those
Of
kind of
course. Of
works.
course.
So after the masters now, um, right, I came back and joined the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office.
Okay.
That is where now,
So that's when you went into Jaipur. Okay.
right, that is where most of that post masters era in terms of the IP would have really now also been honed. I mean, I was still doing contracts, someone who would approach me and so forth, but I was on a day-to-day basis immersed in, primarily trademarks at first and then later copyright and patents, designs, geographical indications, plant variety protection. So the whole gamut of intellectual property really, that opportunity gave me a chance to see from inside, from a government perspective, from administrator perspective, and to really understand how that system works both nationally, regionally, and internationally through WIPO as well. Fair amount of time spent at WIPO over all these years and things. So that was really the channel through which intellectual property now became a whole specialization for me. And then
Yes.
I also did a PhD in that area as well too.
I was going to say, we're
Masters was
really
really kind of too short. The masters was really kind of limited. So I really
okay.
wanted to go forward and got the opportunity through scholarships to do a PhD at the same University of London.
And I want to forgive I because really it should be Doctor Marcus Goff. You don't correct ones, but really there is a doctor. You know, in terms of the PhD. So we have to acknowledge and big up the eye for that. And the I went to Geneva. You know, What was that like studying outside of the country, and also given the history of Geneva as it relates to His Majesty, that famous League of Nations speech? What was that like traveling to that city and the mountains and knowing, say, okay, Calamari passed through them place here?
Yeah, that was a blessing, I went to Geneva first 98. Geneva first
Okay,
98, you know.
okay,
Um yeah. This is when Jamaica went to World Cup first, you know what I mean?
okay.
So first time I touch Europe, yes, touch France, touch Switzerland, I went Geneva. And yeah, man, make sure I ask them which part his man said is really do that speech there and when they
Okay.
take the photograph up there on the podium, man, you know, kind of feel the heights. Yeah, man, and thing I
Yeah, man.
energizing, you know what I mean?
That is the thing I want to do in my life. So give thanks that day I was able to live and to manifest that. So speaking of that now, what was the I relationship with His Majesty in terms of as a young Ras? Because there are two things I see on this channel. You have ones with journey, you have the Rasta culture, and the style, the patterns of a Rastafari brethren. But then you also have the acknowledgement of the divinity of His Majesty, and sometimes those two things are not occurring simultaneously in the trad. So you may have ones who say them are Rasta, but them don't really deal with His Majesty more than so. You know what I mean? In reality, in terms of the I trad, what was the moment? Was it at Campion where you start research about His Majesty, or was it later that you actually start really look on His Majesty? What was that relationship like for the I? And what were, as an attorney, and I asked Ras Miguel the same question, what were some of the things about His Majesty that stood out to the eye, when you start studying the lawgiver now?
Right. Well, I think I'm Mr. Rastaman, talk about Africa, Ethiopia with a kind of glory and joy, that really inspire you. You know what I mean? Very, very different from things that we normally would hear about Africa. So that is alone. You hear Rastaman talk about Africa, Ethiopia. You know what I mean? So that now led me to a whole heap of research go through around Africa, around Ethiopia in particular, around His Majesty. You know what I mean? Open speeches, autobiography, of course, other authors, think of Neil Shavinsky, you have Pankers, other one that written about His Majesty in what appeared to me to be very unique ways, when you see how
Yes.
they write about His Majesty and what Rastaman has said. You can see, say, it's just through them carrying themselves to acknowledge a certain divinity, but that they must say, when you really see some of these authors on them write and when you read about the ancients of Ethiopia, and some of my dynasty and how history, and what role His Majesty played, right, in unifying both, of course, Judaism and Christianity, you know what I mean, within the triple crown from Egypt, I'm saying this thing is really a historical, powerful thing when we say research and verifies Rastaman is saying is correct, So for me,
Yes.
that is really in sixth form. It's really in sixth form.
Okay.
It's really in sixth form for me, So
So before you touch Barbados, you did done suss out the thing and say is Haile Selassie the first.
yeah, I kind of definitely commit at that stage, and say from that
Yes.
time there, so 17, yeah. So I was already on that journey from 16, you know,
Okay.
from almost, and even earlier with the mindset, but Rastafari was more from 15 to 16 to, so by the time I reached 17 years old, you know, I really had planned out, and I planned for A levels at the same time. I planned for A levels at the same time. I planned similar, tell my parents from here on a Rastafari, So I kind of
Okay.
organized after I finished the A levels, because I finished A levels in May. I have a meeting with my parents, called them to a meeting, and then sit down and explain in June, right after A levels finished.
Yeah,
Says this,
levels.
yeah, David, you know what I mean? So yeah,
Seriously.
man, from that time I was very, very sure.
What age was the I when you read the autobiography?
Yeah, I think probably around them between 17 and 18. Because when I went to
Okay.
UW now at Mona campus, I have a whole library open up to me there, so now. You know what I mean? So me tell me whole of a book me borrow in a library there, so on Ethiopia and his majesty and Solomon dynasty and Africa and thing. Whole of a books, you know. So and then of course, them time that say you can visit Mutabaruka store, books by us. Mutabaruka was them time the main bookstore man. But
Okay.
Miguel same way, them a church street them time there,
Yeah, yeah,
books.
yeah.
So I was also a book collector from them time. And I really, I guess maybe through my company studies thing to we love read them time there,
Yes,
And from that
yes.
time till now, I'm not on fiction, man. I'm on non-fiction, history,
Yeah, man.
and politics, man. I have time sometimes for the fiction and fantasy, So yeah, man. Then time I start collect books, start read books. You know what I mean? Because I mean, so then time then it's like not fun to rust in them time there in the 90s. We tell you say a certain zeal rise up enough ones in them time there. You know what I mean? In
Yeah,
terms of energy. You know what I mean? Again, it was a whole takeover of reggae music at that time as well too by Rastafari. And so, yeah, man, a real inspirational wave of just research and reading and, seeing way, of course, Bible included and historical, books and everything. So, yeah.
serious. We talk about that enough on this channel too, that 90s uprising, um, with Sizzla Kalonji, Anthony B, all of these artists. Did that time, as an artist yourself or as a creative, did that time have an impact on the eye? Were you on campus at that time?
Well, let me say, I was from high school. So, so even before high school,
Yes. What
even
what what
before
year did you
campus
start
time,
UA? What year did you start UA?
you were 95, 95,
95. Okay.
yeah,
So
95.
yeah, because I started Howard in 96, so we're close
Yeah.
in terms of thing. But so you did don't have the energy because that was coming into the heyday of that golden era, with
Right, right, right. I
Luciano,
mean, but
Garnet.
definitely, I mean, I'm tell you, say after Bob, for me, it's Garnet Silk. Garnet
Yes,
Silk inspired me immensely, and
yes,
give thanks to Garnet Silk, and that legacy and leave and this, so what I mean. So in that time there, so now I would say yes, of those emerging artists, Garnet Silk, that carry the energy where, and the man they are singing, if I ask if the man they know when I sing about and tell you from inside I feel it, so at them time the definitely the music was a big part of the whole journey for sure.
Did you ever get to see Garnet Silk live?
Yes, I see Ghana say live man because them time everything is about travel around the island. So I saw Ghana say live at um one of them early Rebel Salute. I
Okay.
think it might have been the first one. The first one might have been the first one. But yeah, man, I saw Ghana Silk more than one time too, but at that time maybe not so close up.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, them time I saw Ghana Silk from the first time I hear Ghana Silk, I bet out, you know, say force the powerful.
The force was powerful. Serious thing, serious thing. So, um, coming up, we connected 2007. Just briefly, we want to touch on the Millennium Council era, which was it began well, in terms of uh, the houses and mansions wanting to come together to have one voice. Because this is going to lead us into the topic for this evening, which is Rastafari protesting, Rastafari rights, Rastafari rising, Rastafari persecution, because we don't only want to talk about the challenges on this channel, we also want to, I think we have a responsibility to talk about a way forward and to put forward the solutions as we see address the challenges, of Rastafari. So talk to us about how did the I become involved with the Millennium Council, that Al mentioned um, effort, and then what were some of the challenges um, and then we can lead into where we are today.
All right. So I'm going to need a little switch over. This device here, so I'm on right now, for when that segment is actually looking like it gonna leave me on the charge, and it look like it really here. So I switch over to the phone.
Okay, okay, I see you coming.
So I thought about now. Yes. Yeah. So in terms of that now, yeah, make sure this thing, drop down. Uh, so minimum council.
And I don't want to do a deep dive. We might do that, but I just to establish a timeline. Um, all right, family, we're putting this thing together. In the meantime, let's look at what we have here. Kingdom of Deborah Zeed, Honorable Justice Rolston Fisherbert Nelson, retired, was appointed the visitor of the UII with effect from May 1st, 2019, a position previously held by Her Majesty, the Queen of England. Thank Google. Okay, so Kingdom of Deborah Zeed say the visitor is a title at UII. Okay, okay. I did not go to school in Jamaica, so I was not aware. Yeah, I was aware of this, King.
No, I was aware of that.
Okay, so you educate us, Kingdom of Deborah Zeed. We give thanks. Every day is a learning, you know. So yeah, just we want to establish, and even before, I think it's important to also state that even before the Millennium Council, there were other all-mentioned efforts in the community to come together to speak with one voice, going far, you know, as 1958, the convention, you know, where they were protesting and things. If I can just give kind of a contextual timeline of the community agitation for their rights, and then of course leading up to the Millennium Council and how they became involved.
Okay, that one now. Have to be careful. Have to be careful with that
Yes,
one.
yes.
That's the
That's why
case.
those are skillful. We're doing this for timeline purposes. We're not gonna get deep into that. I just want people to understand when we're
Right.
talking about what we're talking about now. It's not. This is not something that's coming out of a vacuum and just springing out of nowhere. You know what I mean? This is
Right.
something that have a tradition and a legacy. And then the I name called Wooly in relation to the Millennium Council. So we want to hear from the I in terms of the time and how the I became engaged, the work the I did, etc. And I can tune in and put in my 2 cents as well.
Right. Right. So I mean, I would say that all mention, in terms of all mention, looking at a broad collective Rastafari mobilization has been always an objective of the community. Because the community is always subjected to atrocities, harassment, to forced removal. I'm talking about back a wall, Aki walk. One of the historical sites that Rastafari was located at. Then, from 1958, they say, right? And then I've opened to be correct with the dates. Emmanuel, like Prince Emmanuel, had really called a convention, right? Coming together Rastafari and a whole nation to really address collectively, the security, right, and the rights of the community. So that has been a desire, which of course the government of Jamaica had not wanted to occur. It's easier to be able to disperse the community if the community is divided, and that has always been a part of the tactic. I would say
trying to keep the community apart. So eventually, when you did have motion, Congress, the ABIC established, you had uh, established, right? Uh, you had thereafter Church of Israel out of EWF, right? Uh, yeah, the was still there. They had House of Jed also. So even though there was these separate mansions or organizations, the mansions we call them, right? And so forth, there was always this still desire to work together despite the factional differences. And that's not always been easy because we know there are differences in how different mansions see things from doctrine to color, you know, you know, differences that exist,
Yeah,
but
man.
they always have
Flag, flag,
empathy.
color, all kind of thing.
Right, right,
Yes.
right. Those things have historically been very difficult to overcome, But I think we have reached a stage, where that has certainly been a part of moving forward. So the history also we have EUICN, right? Ethiopian Unification
Yes.
Committee. Well, Miguel will have probably spoken about that,
Yes.
historically again, effort
Nana
to
Faraika and Ras Miguel were the co-presidents for that entity.
right.
Nana
That's
Faraika talks about that a lot as well. That was David McConnell, His Majesty grandson, had requested that that entity be set up. So, and that I think was the first formal all mansion initiative.
right.
Of course, you had RCO, which was the Rastafari Centralization Organization with the Silva, Rasta Silva.
Yes, that's
However,
historian.
yes, but I don't know if that was as broad in terms of the membership. I know they had a newspaper and certain things that they were doing, certain works, vital
Yeah.
works. But continue. I just adding in my little party.
Right, right, right. Yeah, man. Give thanks. Give thanks. Important. And then after that, no bit more. Recently, we had Ethiopian Peace Foundation, right?
Yes.
Which also came in through the royal family, through Prince Ermias, right?
Okay.
Was it Ermias? I believe, yes, who wanted to support. No, it's not Ermias. I'm sorry. It is Ermias' cousin,
Hmm.
who is the one who His Majesty gave in the succession, his grandson, with me temporarily.
Oh, you're talking about Zar Jacob.
Sarah Jacob, yes, give thanks.
Yes,
Sarah
yes,
Jacob had really commissioned again a coming together of the community under this
yes,
Ethiopian Peace Foundation. It is in July time, you know,
yes.
and so there was an effort as well too, which he was supporting. They had several events as well too, with the coming together of the community being a main function of it, and that would have been able to facilitate, some integration into Africa and into Ethiopia with the support of, Ethiopian family and, such and such. But then, as I was saying, when Jalad went to Africa, Jalad transitioned over there. That
Yes.
effort kind of, didn't move much further. Of course, there's so much more complex history one can share, of history around that, and for perspective around EPF, but that has probably been the most recent one prior to the
Yes,
RMC.
yes,
So
yes.
coming forward to RMC 2007 now, right, in that space, 2007, in that time, um, there was this emphasis on looking at intellectual property of the Rastafari community, right? So that again had been raised in previous, sessions, certainly in 2003, the global reasoning at UE. This was
Yes.
one of the major topics, right? How to really, galvanize and protect collectively Rastafari.
Big up
Right?
Ras Irie Lion, who was integral in that 2003 global reasoning. Many other ones, gave strength, but I know that was his passion. I was participating in that conference, the 2003 conference at UE.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was supposed to go and can't remember what took place, why I never happened, but that was another powerful international gathering. But continue.
Right, right, right. So, So, right, so in 2007 now, it was the period of time around the millennium, you know,
Yes.
Ethiopia's millennium, right? Ethiopia's 2000, year 2000, you know. And so the bring together of different management organizations around trying to, see if the property rights could, support the communities in somewhat, could be a plank for development, and so forth, was something that was convened to be able to see if there, different organizations or management would be willing to form an organization together to bring that forward, to be able to collectively through an organization seek to kind of manage and protect the rights of the community. So, in that respect, meetings were being held towards galvanizing that, and that eventually, again, kind of merged into something broader, as a mansion organization that would look at not only IP rights, but also, other issues of general concern to the Rastafari community,
And this is where I really first started to link with the I, and we were tasked with the drafting of a constitution, ultimately, which never was signed. We spent a lot of time, a lot of hours drafting that constitution. Um,
All right. So, you mentioned Smithsonian earlier. So that
yeah,
is was the same 2007, right?
yes,
That was
yes,
prior
yes.
to, that was after
The
Freedom Council,
exhibition
right?
at the
That's right.
Smithsonian, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that is where I think we first met. And then from there, as I said, the work continued. So that never worked out, and we don't have to get into that now because we don't have time. Um, However, along this whole stretch of time, Rastafari are still being arrested, convicted, and imprisoned for the possession of ganja. 2015, there is before even 2015, there is a special report that is commissioned. And I believe there have been a few reports that have been commissioned in terms of decriminalize, ganja law, ganja policy. Talk to us about the amendment, the Dangerous Drug Act. And this is taking place after the Millennium Council is no longer actively functioning, but forces are at play that are leading to a historic amendment in ganja policy. Talk to us about how that unfolded from the eye perspective.
Uh, right, right. Well, yes. I mean, well, around probably 2012, maybe 2012, we start hearing some buzzing, right? Around the globe, right? In terms of this kind of wave or trend towards decriminalization, and what's going to make money and big bucks and regulated market going to be making billions, and we have more states in the USA in particular decriminalizing and so forth, and yeah, that climate really, just moved very quickly throughout the globe, and of course, Jamaica being a well-known ganja country and culture, uh, we were in those conversations, so question about, well, what can Jamaica do? Can we also follow this trend? And why we shouldn't we shouldn't wait? We should do it now. And there's a lot of agitation from persons, locally, to say let's jump on this, moving ganja movement. So that is what then forced. I think not forced. I would say forced. That is what I would say. Uh, then Minister of Justice Mark Golden used as opportunity to propose some reforms to the ganja law, and he really took it, by the horns, and I think spearheaded that process, which was a fairly complex process, trying to balance medicinal and therapeutic and religious and uh, scientific, you know. So that is what I would say, that global, moment in time when, countries are moving this way is what I think we rode and became the first in the Caribbean to decriminalize in 2015, April 2015.
Okay.
So,
So what was the specific? Speak to the specific provision, because there is a specific. I don't know if everyone knows that there is a specific language in the amendment that addresses Rastafari. So speak to why this was so historic and what the essence of that language was.
right. Well, so a bit before that maybe. So, of course, right, of course, in the build up and lead up to the law being amended, Mark Golding had a series of consultations, a lot of discussion. I must say, was a really swell of interest locally from all ones. I mean, I think young and old, Bali, Rastafari, PNP, and GLP, down in the country, you know, ones who
And
never
this
thought
was right in the U.S. wave. I think that's important because I often say that, and I was born at the University of the West Indies, so I don't want people take this the wrong way. But I say a lot of time Jamaica is a wagoners culture. We like jump on bandwagon, and this was a bandwagon where, as you say, the U.S. there was a decriminalization happening, the medical marijuana revolution, and I think California um, was the first to do the recreational, and I think that was the thing that kind of spark, a global thing. I have a theory that this happened because Cali, they finally felt like they had the best herb in the world. They'd been perfecting their ganja, and now we're ready to take it into the legal market. Um, but why do you think Jamaica had to wait for this swell from America and then act like it's a brand new plant and it's a brand new movement when Jamaica had this resource that they almost killed the original strain seeds with all of the fight that they gave this plant. Why do you think, or do you agree, or do you think that's controversial? Me calling this culture of ours a wagonist culture. What do you think, Ras Marcus?
I think that the reality is right of the geopolitics of the globe, and where Jamaica is located, coming out of again, slavery and colonization, looking at what we have as independence and dependence on the USA in the independence era. You know, I think that it's probably understandable in that context why certain things Jamaica not gonna move ahead unless them feel it is safe to do so. I mean, say safe because of course the International Narcotics Control Board has had very stringent law against ganja and other types of so-called drugs for many many decades. And
Very,
other
very critical
sanctions.
point. Yes, very critical.
Right.
And explain that. Explain that the international conventions, the funding that comes in terms of, helping to stave off international trafficking, and explain that whole regime there, because I think a lot of people are not aware that
Right.
the things that bind Jamaica. That when people say, "Why hasn't Jamaica just legalized and done all of this?" Explain the international restraints.
Right. So international restraints really allow cannabis production and trade and import export only for scientific or medical purposes. And it's very regulated. So you have specific forms they must follow that report annually how much herb grow, how much herb is used for medicine and science, what to do with the rest side, what I mean, where it comes from. You have to get export permit, import permit from your health, your the medical officer for the country has to sign off on any kind of type of research or export import. So those were historically always very restricted grounds, you know, uh, that you could really deal with these drugs. And the same thing for cannabis, for morphine, for opium, cocaine, now heroin, methamphetamines.
Methamphetamines.
Right. Those are now similarly regulated globally,
Yes, yes.
So and these things are tied to sanctions. Tied to sanctions, if you breach these conventions, they sanction you, right? And if you comply, you get aid and support. So but a lot of the Black Hawk helicopters where it knows to come down and spray the ganja after the police funding, to combat ganja. It's coming from the US government historically. Because it's the US government that has waged this war on drugs, as they called it, right?
Across the whole planet.
Kind of brought to America and to the West,
Okay, we had a little technical.
In terms of how they dealt with ganja and other drugs and how they dealt with persons who they found convicted of those, So that is the context which Jamaica has often historically operated in, and Jamaica being well known for ganja, right, for many, many decades, right, being one of the leaders. Jamaica is historically the leading ganja producer in the West, right, in terms of illicit, right, for a small country that is, again, not an easy feat, So Jamaica has always been under scrutiny.
That's a rebel culture.
Right, definitely so, and brazen with it, Jamaica brazen with it, brand it, and knows that Jamaica well known for it. So Jamaica has been on the radar for ganja from ever since decades, of the UN, of the US in particular, So that is why the legal room would not have been there to be able to do that if it weren't for that global trend.
So we got too hard, Marcus. We need to apologize to the people of Jamaica. What you say? Marcus, you leave me out there. What we should do?
No, I said that. But I already said that still. I mean, if I put myself in a lawmaker's shoes,
yes,
10 years ago, 20 years ago, still, it will be very difficult. It will be very difficult. The most you can probably do is do it in a local, very limited context, But we are, certainly growing up in Jamaica, we know the climate where ganja is concerned. I mean, even though ganja is nowhere scientifically as dangerous, ganja is seen as historical in the law again because it's so popular, as dangerous to the law, and only when cocaine supersedes that now, that all right, the lawmakers and historically target, because after with ganja, we see all the cases come to the court system, clog the court system, people say, well, we're tired of that, so every time Mark Golding was in the Ministry of Justice, I'm gonna say it's right time, right place, you have a pro-ganja legislator, a lawyer, and he's also a creative too. And of course, in coming a time when the trend was moving that way, and I'm going to say, I know for sure that the party itself, PNP, never supported that in a major way. I mean, in the election that followed, they never even used that as a major part of the campaign. Otherwise, they never got returned. But fact is that, as I said, that is how we end up now, moving in that direction because of, I think, that kind of leadership against the wave of odds of people who never support, and so forth, and all of that, So during that process, we had a period of consultation with the Rastafari community and different segments. You have the medical fraternity, you have the science and research persons, government agencies, everybody put in to see what's happening and all of that, The Rastafari Advisory Board that was formed again by Mark Golding. Ones were there to advise him how to exercise his responsibility under the law concerning events, concerning sacramental cultivation, and places of worship, they call it. We call it sacramental spaces. So all these things, the Ministry of Justice has responsibility for in the law. And through that, then, there had been some ongoing consultation with the Ministry of Justice and the Rastafari community in that respect. Not always has it been smooth going and easy going, Certainly we've not had, I think, the kind of focus and attention to our rights as the scientific researchers and others have had, in Jamaica. But still now, 2024, I'm still seeing Rastafari being arrested. Rastafari is still prosecuted for Ganja and Rastafari's case. That's a good example of what is still wrong with the system. That Rastaman can be in his space of 2 pound of herb, and because the law at present and has for decades since 48 when it was first passed, said that if you have 8 ounces or more of ganja in your possession, you are presumed to be dealing. Have evidence of you dealing, but you are presumed to be dealing because, in other words, the law is saying, what else would you be doing with so much ganja in your possession?
Very crucial. So today, again, we said that we had Ras Negos, who was right here on this platform live from Montego Bay. Before his case, we couldn't talk about the case because that time it was an active matter before the court. Today, he was actually received his sentence. So I want, the eye to just give the people a history because, we talk generally, and I did that to set the context because I like to, when we're telling the story, I like to set up a contextual bed so that when we get into the details of the story, we can see that these are people's lives that are impact. We're not just talking theory and numbers. There's a journey, there's a story in all of these things. So now that the sentence has been handed down, and now that, and we know that there's going to be an appeal process, big up Attorney Chomo, just explain Ras Negos' case, what he was charged for, what he was convicted for, the process, where we are, and the verdict, and just give those who have been seeing the protest, because we're going to get into the protest and we're going to get into a way forward. But I want the eye to just give this as a case study to the audience globally, our global family, to let them know in 2024, this is what's taking place in Jamaica. We went through the whole history of the fight down of the cannabis plant and the community efforts to unify. But the community is still criminalized in Jamaica. So just give us a background of Negos' case, and then we're going to get into the topic of today, which is the cannabis, sacramental, ganja, Rastafari rights. Go forward, King.
Right. So you're asking about the law, right? So the 2015 amendment, right? The 1948 Dangerous Drugs Act, and it specifically mentioned Rastafari. And in the lead up to the act, Mark Golding recognized that and acknowledged publicly that Rastafari has the constitutional rights to deal with ganja. Freedom of religion, he expressed the acknowledge, which again is something that Rastafari have argued for years, right? And never yet that has been acknowledged, whether by the government or by the court system in Jamaica. Pay tribute as well right now to one of our Rastafari patriarchs, who's also an attorney at law of blessed memory. I'm talking about Dennis Forsyth, the man who had argued his own case because he was charged and convicted for possession of ganja, I think Chillam pipe, same way, in his home. Police raided his home, and he was convicted in 1997. And constitutionally, he raised that same argument, and it was thrown out in the court. So when Mark Boyd recognized that, no.
And I would let you know that I have connection. My wife's cousin, that is her father. So Dennis Forsyth, his brother, I actually ran into his brother the other day, and him say, him know the heights, and him big up the eye as well. He's another attorney. His wife is an attorney as well, and then big up the eye. So me just sticking that for shows. He says a small world,
Yes, sir. And yeah, man, we really need to do something. I've been having a call to do something for that situation because again, when we decriminalize ganja, we need to recognize the decades and generation of atrocities. After come with a reparation package, they include apology and reparation. And this is something we've seen recognized in other laws. Look from New York, from California, from New Jersey. We see where it's a legacy first that they're focused on, meaning that those who were convicted, those who were marginalized for ganja get first preference now with licensing and with empowerment in the new industry, That's what we were arguing for in Jamaica and still are, because we're saying that those grassroots farmers, those Rastafari ones who've been doing this thing forever, the personal sacrifice and conviction to show for it should now be the first one to be issued licenses and to facilitate it with land regularization and access to loan and grants and equipment and markets and dispensaries and so forth. You know what I mean? But it's not how we did it here. Again, the reparative aspect of the law was not fully, enforced, and it's something we need to still continue to do. But the law recognizes for the first time Rastafari as a community with rights, the constitutional rights, freedom of religion, to deal with ganja in the traditional customary context. But unfortunately, the way it was implemented, I think, because again, to me, it seems the fear of the narcotics board at the UN coming over them, then it's restricted. So it makes Rastafari exempt from possession in totality. Rastafari cannot be charged or convicted for possession of ganja once you're using it in the context of Rastafari fair, right? So it does not say so for dealing. Now, for cultivation, it says that you can cultivate with a order or a permit from the Ministry of Justice,
Okay.
But
So it's silent, but there's no explicit prohibition of Rastafari as it relates to dealing either, is there?
there is, yes, it definitely discourages and prohibits, yes, trading, selling, it definitely does. And this is something that
Okay.
we see the Caribbean laws have followed the Jamaican pattern. And so across the whole Caribbean, we have these laws now that while they recognize Rastafari rights, are telling you say you can't trade in it, you can't deal, you can't accept funds, you can't, structure it in that way because they say once you do so, it's no longer sacramental, it's commercial, right? And therefore, them until they say you must go to CLA, go to the licensing authority to get a license like everybody else. And there will be a problem with that because that is, again, not a proper reparative justice framework to deal with what Rastafari community and grassroots community around Ganja. Because Ganja, again, has been a grassroots Rastafari economy for so long. And again, based on the lives that were told and the lives that were destroyed, the justice system, then you must have to know, if you come back later and acknowledge say you was wrong with what was your approach, right, criminally, to the plan and to the people, then you must have come in a package that also is going to acknowledge how to rectify and remedy those wrongs committed in the past, and so the law, I'm going to say, does somewhat recognize Rastafari for the first, but doesn't go far enough. At the same time, though, the Narcotics Board has said that what Jamaica did recognize Rastafari rights is not legal, according to the
Okay.
conventions. According to the convention, because the convention don't recognize no religious exemption. It don't recognize scientific and medical. So that's the pressure again, too, you see, that they are saying, no, God, so you can't do that. But what they're saying here, that yes, we can, because constitutionally they have rights, right? And so we have some recognition, but not what ought to be in terms of a full Rastafari Ganja
So
relationship.
it's still under U.S. Pressure, but I think the conflict is that there's also a presumption of dealing if you're caught in possession of a certain amount. Speak to that point.
Right. So this is from the original law, the 1948 law, right? That again, I was saying 8 ounces are presumed to be dealing because the presumption is what else you do with so much ganja, right? So you must be dealing, And what
They
we're
don't
saying is
know
that
some chalice man where we know.
they never go being yet. So what I'm saying that in the new dispensation, the new era now, where every household can grow 5 plants, right? Without no permit, every can grow 5 plants, right? And every Rastaman can possess as much as he wants for religious purposes. So therefore, the 8 ounce thing is no longer relevant. It can no longer be and should no longer be able to be used by a policeman to be able to charge and convict anybody, especially a Rastaman,
So
And
so
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 this is that
so
need to be
speak to
amended.
Ras Negos. What were the details of Ras Negos case to their knowledge,
Yeah, man, so
information?
West Indies is one of them brethren who in the West in Mobile has been a sanctuary Rastafari, you know. Um, and in terms of that, I'm talking about a place where Rastafari can go and get herb and can go and, be supported in this document. you know. And so that means that is a space where historically we rely on, right? Now, when you can go into the shop, they found 2 pounds in there, packaged in some nice packages, right? And they say he's beating. What on for me there?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We're a family friendly show. So we give thanks, you see, when ones are doing works, you know, the precious jewels where them are work for. You can see it right there, you know. We give thanks to the family
Yeah,
man.
man.
And
So
go ahead.
yeah, man. So as Negus therefore was charged for dealing and for possession, right? Again, they never see him selling herbs to nobody. They never see him with no cash or collect from nobody, right? They, you know, the only basis is that he had 2 pounds, which of course is over the 8 ounce for the consumption deal, you know, and that his space, right? They say is a shop where other things are sold, and therefore herb must be sold there as well, you know. And so using that to say that he was dealing, that he was therefore not using the herb for Rastafari sacramental purposes, which the law says for the observance or celebration of the Rastafari faith, right? They say he's not doing it for that purpose. And you know, so they charge him for possession and dealing, and the judge found him guilty last month, and he was sentenced this afternoon. You know, so that shows us, therefore, that the law does not properly protect Rastafari, because here it is, the Rastaman who's doing this thing from a long time, who has a right to possess her for sacramental purposes, right, and shouldn't be charged about that, is still being able to be prosecuted and convicted for dealing. You know what I mean? It makes no sense, and it's not fair. Not fair. No way whatsoever. Because the Rastaman there, who is lawfully possessing, right? Who is the judge now to say that, oh, that is not the manner in which Rastafari observe the faith, right?
Exactly.
And this is what I know through my Negus' lawyer argued, that the
Yeah.
judge can and should not, even though they might be tempted, they should not view Rastafari rights through Christian perspectives, through the lens of church, and you have to be in some sort of a temple, you know, to be using her for your religious purposes, right? This is what I think is a part of the challenge. That if it were that you were in, I mean, say some temple or some church, and it was a Sunday, you know what I mean? They would have probably said, okay, then that's okay. But because
Yeah.
they're in a street that is in the center of the city, in what look like it may be, you know, nothing holy, you know, they might view, then this prejudice comes in again. You know what I mean? And you know, we still have a stigma of Rastafari being looked at as criminals for ganja. You know what I mean? So that's part of the issue too, that a judge used to seeing Rastaman in court for ganja. A judge used to growing up and knowing that what we learn in school and in society is ganja is bad. So that's a difficult thing to break out of a person's mind as judge, as police, as prosecutor. And so we say the law need to be clear. Don't leave it up to discretion or up to interpretation, because a police will use it against whatever someone he wanted to use it against. And so we don't want to be left up to the rest of man being at the mercy of the police, feel like you know they want to apply. Because what we've seen as well too is the law change that no police are extort Rastaman for herbs, because they feel like they have a discretion to exercise. If you have power to use, and so they ask if some of the herb, or then so that they're going to charge you and take the herb, and then don't charge you and the herb go missing. All type of things we're being subjected to now at Rastafari, because the law is not clear, and also the law has not properly been explained, the power that be. Meaning that enough the police we encounter don't know about the law, don't know so Rastafari have rights in the law. You know what I mean? And some of the judges as well too, I see, have difficulty with appreciating the Rastafari rights in the law, you know. So the whole public education that should have surrounded the law, you know, amended, did not, you know, was not properly rolled out. And again, the law had some gaps in it as well in the field. That is why we're still vulnerable in this day and age to persecution, you know, fortunately.
Very serious. So, what was the verdict, or sorry, what was the sentencing? Because the verdict was guilty. He was convicted, obviously. what was the sentence that came down this afternoon, and what could have been the sentence, just to show seriousness. Is this also considered a felony? What are some of the implications of the current status of the case?
Right. So Rashid was sentenced to $9,000 for possession. This is Jamaican dollars, of course, and $11,000 for dealing. So $20,000 fine. Um,
$20,000 for those who are not Jamaican. How much US is that?
divided by maybe a 150, 155. And how much did that come out to? Probably about 100 and a little bit, 100 and maybe 20.
Yeah. So just to let you know, 120 US dollars, roughly, in that area. So it's not a huge. It was not. They didn't come down with a hammer on the brethren.
No, I mean,
yeah. So
the
speak
law
to.
allows up to 3 years imprisonment. So the judge could have done that, but again, that would have been very harsh, very, very serious, and very, very, wrong. So, at least the fine, there's no challenge in having that paid and dealt with. But of course, the issue is that you have a criminal conviction for this thing now. And the issue is, of course, that means that every other Rastaman who have more than 8 ounce spanning, right, can be liable same way to prosecution and conviction and sentencing for ganja, when the law clearly does not have that intent. The spirit of the law clearly is that Rastafari rights, Rastafari relationship to ganja are supposed to be recognized and protected, constitutional right to be recognized and protected. So how is it that you recognize and protect a part of it, but still he was vulnerable to our next part? That can't work,
Still criminalizing the community. Is this considered a felony conviction?
Yes, it is. It is. It is still a serious crime. I mean, as crimes go, I mean, obviously there are more serious crimes that you have to go to prison. Obviously, you know what I mean. But in terms of how the law is deemed, yes, ganja is still on the criminal books, and so he had a criminal conviction now for possession and dealing of ganja in an era when Rastafari was have the freedom to do it.
Are there any implications as it relates to travel as a felony, obtaining visas? How is that going to impact the brethren? What is the harm potentially from having a felony conviction on your record?
Yeah, you can be hindered certainly in immigration elsewhere, for sure. You can be hindered in employment opportunities, sometimes grant and other funding opportunities, as well too. Certainly there are restrictions in terms of maybe if you want to be, let's say, a director of a company or certain type of charities, So there are consequences of having a conviction, which again, is unfortunate. And, Rastafari has been stigmatized and criminalized for generations, right? And so has ganja. So the effort must now be to have that undone. One of the things that changed with the law in 2015 was that they had what is called automatic expungement, right? Which is a good thing, again. And this is something we've seen again in the laws in Europe, some of them, and certainly in the USA, as part of criminal records for ganja. So if you're expunging criminal records for ganja automatically too, then that means that necessarily you could not be seeking to create new criminal offenses and offenders for Rastafari ganja. So I'm thinking that the law is an oversight, or certainly it's something we have to rationalize, because again, the dealing part was left there because of this fear that it will be labeled as Rastafari doing commercial activities, right? That is the fear, and this Rastafari herb would then flow into the black market. And this is going to somehow now jeopardize those who have gotten their licensed dispensaries and compete with them. And so it's all looking at how to make sure it's
yes,
and Rastafari is kept out of the economics of it. You know what I mean? So this is a big issue, Not to confront.
And I want people to understand. I wanted people to understand also the revolutionary nature of Ras Negos to take up this, because he could have not taken it to trial, pled guilty. He took it to trial because he wanted to, agitate, for the right and force a decision to be made. The decision has been made. But there are still implications. This is why we have a Rastafari attorney telling you that a felony conviction has implications. So some people may hear the amount of the fine and say, all right, the virgin is good, make we go back and play some video game and, go a dance and them thing. Then no, the battle is still engaged because these are serious consequences that the brethren still face, and many other ones, as you can hear, are not even as beneficial. They may spend a night in jail. They may be left from their loved one. They may be arrested, spend time in jail, lose their work, and get plunged into a cycle of poverty and different things. There are all type of real world consequences and real people. You see the brethren youth come and greet him so lovingly. These people who get convicted of herbies rasses are the same family man like the brethren who get torn from their family or their ability. So I want to just very much emphasize when we talk about this that we're dealing with real people, real situations, real consequences, and what this law has effectively done is criminalize a large segment of the Jamaica population, which is the Rastafari community. And I think some of it, Ras Marcus, is just because not overstanding or not being educated on how the Rastafari sacramental ecosystem works. I want the eye to talk about Raga and the efforts, because Rastafari has not just played the victim and just curl up in a corner and complain that we're being persecuted. Serious efforts have been made, and I want the eye to speak to how the community has been since the amendment working to create or define what historically has happened organically. Can the eye just go into that history?
Yeah, yeah. So in the aftermath of the 2015 amendment to the law, there was a Rastafari Advisory Board, I would say, that was in place with Ministry of Justice, and Rastafari ones were there exercising, responsibilities there under the law by the minister, you know. And then what happened was in 2016, the administration changed after the general elections, and the new Minister of Justice did not reconvene a Rastafari Advisory Board, and so that kind of consultative relationship that we had built with the ministry up, prior to 2015 and into 2016 with the Rastafari Advisory Board and so forth, which I think, in my opinion, had been working fairly well, was kind of discontinued, and at the same time, the Ministry of Justice was not processing the application that they had received from the Rastafari community for recognition of their sacred spaces, for the right to cultivate. They were only processing the sacramental events application, So trying to really raise this issue with the Ministry of Justice for some time, not really getting the kind of, traction and response there. And in the aftermath of the RMC fallout, then, we reconvened and had been really continuing to meet still as all mansions, but just not under an RMC umbrella anymore, but continuing to meet. And that all mansion, group out of the RMC really decided to establish a focused organization that was to look at the ganja rights of the community and to make sure the ganja advocacy was maintained and strengthened. And so that is what eventually came as RAGA, Rastafari and Grassroots Ganja Association, And that was really the focus to really get to the ministry, make sure so the ministry was able to appreciate the Rastafari rights and to protect Rastafari rights properly, and also be able to facilitate ones in the industry who want to be able to, of course, do economic empowerment. Because without empowerment economically, as we know, it's not about smoking. We don't want the community to want to look at smoking. We want to be able to use the herb freely, including to be able to sustain ourselves. We are saying that as Raga, and of course Raga is now a committee of RMO, right, that Rastafari relationship to ganja is not only about smoking, right? It is multidimensional. It involves spiritual, social, cultural, economic, you know, aspects, and has always done so. So to have the law and the system treat I as if it's just Chilom and Chalice alone, Rastafari deal with ganja, that is totally false. And I'd say we can't accept that it's okay for the newcomers. Right? Some of them again are, as I said, the real wagonists them you mentioned, because they're coming on board now to profit off of ganja when they were haters all this time, you know.
Yes.
And they said the Rasta man who been to sacrifice himself and his family and his livelihood and his integrity, for the herb is being told explicitly said they can't participate in the economics of it. You know what I mean? So that has been a major part of what we've been challenging, as rather, and of course trying to also assist ones who still find themselves locked up or arrested or prosecuted or extorted by the police and the system towards ganja. Not
And
one's really came to INI afterwards, after they've been charged, after they've been arrested, after they've been, threatened with arrest, after they've been seized. Once came to Ragat, so can you assist? And that's why we got involved with the court cases, assisting one to find legal representation or to interface with the police or the courts, or the Ministry of Justice and so forth to really have Rastafari right protected.
the I has done a lot of work. I know, legal work, going to court, helping ones, reasoning with police. I know the I get calls constantly, and people don't talk enough. A lot of people call this brethren name disparagingly, and I don't hear enough ones talking about the sacrifices that the I make at all times. Where you may want to be dealing with your family, and a brethren may get pulled over or something happen, and the I get the call. I know that the I has done many times, work to on behalf without getting paid either. Speak to some of those experiences in terms of those generally, why do I feel that I have that duty? There are many attorneys, but I do a very large amount of pro bono work. What is it that drives the I in that direction?
Well, we know that the law have been used historically to oppress, and particularly in the plantation societies of the Caribbean, and so, we know that black people weren't always included or had access to, being a part of the legal profession or having access to the courts, access to vote, access to even voice and to protest, and to take action in court. So see myself as a person who has that training, and that access to justice, and knowing that many persons historically in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, people of African descent who don't have access to justice, then I see it as being a responsibility to facilitate that access, that to say that the courts always have access, always provide justice, right? But I'm saying that it is a place that I think we need to go more, for justice, because, I think the law has moved and evolved quite a bit. And so has society, doing our work, in recent years since the amendment, you see where, no police, are very sorry they have to do this. Actually, I've had first of all tell me the police come back and tell him, say, boy, that's really sorry. And, just through the, system, and I'm telling me to come to the urban. Actually, we've had some cases where the police withdraw the charges and give them an about them urban and say, boy, respect. So, say, there's goodness within people. Within the court, same way, enough judges have found very sympathetic and understanding towards what the fire rights, but I'm going to tell you, so the law said. And, so I feel that if we can focus on some legal work through the courts, through having the parliament recognize our rights in the legislation, through education of ones, both in the community and outside of the community, about, Rastafari rights and people rights and ganja rights and so forth, then we can move the pendulum, because we know, since the 60s till now, Rastafari has gained a lot more appreciation of in Jamaica, as a society, you know what I mean? And so that's a big factor. You know, that ganja has for a long time to among the majority of Jamaicans had widespread acceptance and usage, right? So it's, I think, the fear of moving out of a colonial mindset and legal framework into a more empowered, independent, you know, you know, type of framework that I think is fearful for some. So even within the same, governance that has changed the law. So if we can facilitate that again through our experiences, because enough people in criminalization never once touch or want to be with her, you know. And Rastafari has a wealth of experience as well, and leadership and application. We say the healing of a nation, and all Rastafari healing of a nation, we say. So that means that we have a responsibility as a Rastafari community as well, or Rastafari individuals, the poor ones to use the herb, to know what the herb, but to respect the herb, and to benefit from it in a respectful and spiritual way.
Yeah, man, it's very, very serious. What I is saying. One of the things that Raga did that I think was very revolutionary was introduce an ID system. Um, Talk to us about the way forward, because we know the challenge. What does a self-regulated Rastafari system look like? A thriving, because I want people to understand that a thriving Rastafari community is good for Jamaica, in terms of crime prevention, in terms of being a positive influence in the society. Give us a vision, Ras Marcus, because I know that the item have spent a lot of time on this within Raga. Give us a vision of what a thriving, functioning Rastafari ecosystem looks like, and talk about the ID system that Raga has already started implementing.
Yes. So the ID system was a response to the continuing abuses of ones in the streets, by police. Sometimes one stop ones with herb on the road, walking, driving, and they ask you, well, what you have to declare, and then once with Rastafari, and then sometimes police ask you for some verification of that. Again, we don't believe that one need verification. See, Rastafari still, but recognize that it can assist with that in some respect, and someone are not attached to any management organization, and someone should don't have ID system either. So we say, well, let's create an ID system that can at least facilitate. But when this stop here, you can show him, say, well, some organization, some Rastafari organization recognize that this person as a Rastafari, that hopefully can alleviate the police from seeking any further type of, harassment, what I mean, where herb is concerned. So that is really the genesis of that, trying to have it as a means of protection through identification, through self-identification.
Self-identification.
As Rastafari, right?
So this
Yes,
is not a government entity that's coming giving IDs. This is the community itself saying this is how we are going to regulate ourselves, and we're going to share that with the government. So take us through. We're almost at 2 hours. So we're going to seal up. If you have any questions, put them in this. This is just part one. We have to bring Ras Marcos forward. The time flies, family. But we want to talk about, we can't leave without, again, providing a way forward. Talk to us also about the protests, the aim in terms of amending the law, and just what is a vision of a way forward for Rastafari in Jamaica as it relates to.
yes, I. Well, yeah, man. I think definitely, allowing for a respectful relationship between Rastafari community and the Ganja clan. Something like Rastafari, say, defend, sacrifice, for generations. And so the community deserves to have that proper, respectful relationship with the herb as I envision it, as I build it. You know what I mean? Because I'm saying I said from long time this herb was useful and spiritual and a blessing and a healing. So the law should not seek to make I fit into its regime, The law is supposed to recognize and frame itself and form itself to recognize a pre-existing system. You know, as we say in legal terms, the law should grandfather all Rastafari mansion and an organization and individuals. You know what I mean? Um, and basically regularize what has been an informal traditional economy for, you know, ever since. You know what I mean? So we've had opportunities with different income streams over the course of Jamaica history. Where the music is one of them again, but again, the creatives don't earn from the creativity, right? And the majority of the industry money globally, which is billions and billions of US dollars, has been made by non-Jamaican and definitely non-Rastafari people. So I'm saying let's not have the herb be the same way too. Again, the government should approach this ecosystem to say, well, you know, not as how they did it to say we want to have a market based on foreigners coming here, right, for licenses, right, and based on foreigners coming to buy herb in dispensaries. But how are we going to create a local economy, support, formalize, and empower uh, the local economy? So every Rastafari and grassroots one in the space where they are, the home, the community, the corner, the shop, can eat the food and benefit from this herb. You know what I mean? And we know it's been doing so for a long time, I'm saying, despite that, under the burden of the criminal law. So now we have some space to amend the law. Let's amend the law, recognize these ones, and empower them. So it's what I'd like to see, that the herb can be not just a money maker for foreigners and for the well-to-do who have money to buy a license, but for the grassroots community who deserve it. For all the ancestors that who got prison and life mash up. You know what I mean? For all the Rastafari ones who like trim up and suffer herbs. You know what I mean? All the ones who spend time, years, when you had a 7-year mandatory sentence for herbs. Not
Away
spend
from
time
their
at treatment.
children, torn away from their children and their livelihoods.
And discredited in the face of their children. You know what I mean? In the face of their family because you're Rasta with, ganja conviction. You know what I mean? So I'm saying all these things we have to, as Jamaica, find a way to resolve, because there's no big money to be made from foreigners, and I don't see there's no big money to be made from foreigners, but there is a lot of money to be made. The local economy, the same way how the local economy in a lot of products, be it alcoholic, be it tobacco, be it even certain things like basic commands like red peas and these things. These things are earning money, big money for people. So I'm saying if you structure the thing, incentivize the thing, empower the people who have been doing it a long time, right? With some framework to ease the criminal law off of them, right? But have some regulation in place to still keep it within certain manageable boundaries and accountability and so forth. Then we can see where we can create an economy that can support the ones from a long time without having to, feel that the law is on our backs, right? Now, that also includes not only just cultivation and sale of the herb itself, but sale of and research in byproducts. Much herbal byproducts exist again under the criminal law. We couldn't do research and development, so we couldn't experiment and discover and mix and treat. And so now we have the opportunity in the open, in the era of the legalized framework, right, to be able to do these things. But again, we need empowerment, and it can't be again as only the universities were looking to for research, or the Canadians or the US. There, no, we have a lot of local researchers, grassroots researchers, right, who have multiple experience, but have traditional knowledge in ganja, in the isles, in cultivation, in byproducts, and they're stifled because, no, we don't have proper regulation empowering Rastafari and grassroots ones to be able to do these things, And so we have to change the way the whole law is oriented, change the whole way the law is oriented towards a foreign-minded approach, and towards away from foreign-minded approach towards, let me say, more grassroots empowerment approach, And that's where I think we can see something out of this, because again, as things will come, they come and go, and we have the same discussion, talking, and the industry passes it away, no great money is made, and we say, boy, what if, and what could have been, because again, we're applying a plantation mindset, a plantation society, a plantation economy, and business model to what should be a reparatory-based industry.
Very well said. 2 hours have flown by. I didn't get to go in depth on the IP. This is one of the foremost IP experts in the island of Jamaica. We didn't touch no IP. So next time when the eye forward, we just want to have a IP discussion, Rastafari IP, which is a next big topic. There are other topics as well we can touch in, but I want to just give thanks for the eye coming forward. It was very informative. Again, we have to big up the eye for the works that the eye has done over the years in service to the community. I've been a witness. I've worked side of the eye. You know, I've seen the growth and the development. So I have to publicly just state that the eye is an inspiration for I and I same way. So continue, you know, to shine that light and to work tirelessly on behalf of the immunity. Are there any final words that the I would like to share with the global family? Many will watch this post this time. Big up the 7 people who are with us live. Hundreds more will watch after around the world. You know, what sounds do the I want to block? And also, you know, how can one tap into what's happening and learn more if one's, you know, are passionate about Rastafari rights in Jamaica?
Yes, sir. Well, thanks again, to the eye for, the invitation and, yeah, man, for the years of working together, Um, yeah, man, I just want to say that, Rastafari has been through a lot, been through a lot, and we've accomplished a lot. And, and I think that what we have right now in our hands with Ganja is really special. I think the opportunity for, again, one more thing, Rastafari can say, see, I told you so, and we can prove that can work, if we give them a chance, if we work together, and support each other in it, and we talk, especially about not only Jamaica, but how Jamaica and the Rastafari community outside Jamaica can also be connected and empowered through Ganja as well. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And through just working together through art and other institutions like that. You know what I mean? There's so much talent we have a potential once we can really work together still. And I think that sometimes, we can be our own stumbling block sometimes, you know what I mean? But I think Ganja is one of those topics that, historically and even now, hopefully, can unite us, irrespective of mansion or organization or doctrine or flag or colors or whether the age, mental locks, any of those things. Ganja is central, I think. Connect. We can really rally around, you know what I mean? And I think that, the economy is there for the economy, the mixture of Ganja, Jamaica, Rastafari, economy and product slash service slash merch slash anything is attractive, is in demand, you know what I mean? And so I would love to see what the far really take up in hand to see how we can really be able to claim a rightful stake in the emerging Ganja global industry. And you that just to empower ourselves, with a cash money in your pocket and things like that. But really, as our vision through Raga and RMO, to use these funds to empower the community, to take care of elders who can't take care of themselves, to establish some farms and some care centers, some clinics, some health, some schools. So things like that, I'm saying we can use Ganja as an engine for advancement of community development that can serve and feed into other types of ways that we can fulfill Rastafari, And so it's important. I think we can really spend some time to focus on it. I think that in terms of justice as well, enough times, Ganja injustices go far across the black world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And justice must come for that as well too. I don't think we can accept just move from criminal to decriminalize and everything is high story. Money being made and nobody's ever look at the preparation, as God said, again, apology and a package of compensation and institution and healing and support and empowerment. And so I think we should lobby and focus on everything. Rastafari is a global ganja voice, a global ganja leader, look to us for that kind of guidance. And so I think we have obligation and responsibility to ourselves and to others to lead on this. And so look forward to really see how we can manifest more ganja opportunities, both for the community here in Caribbean and in the global Rastafari community.
And in terms of our brethren Ras Negos, what's next? What's the next steps for Ras Negos?
Yes, so his lawyer filed what's called a verbal notice of appeal, which means that he informed the judge right after the sentencing that that we will be appealing the conviction. So the judge therefore supposed to give her reasons in writing in the next few weeks. Hopefully, hopefully we get it in short order that we can have those reasons to then, start to look at how we could how we could have the appeal, the court of appeal heard, and there we're looking to raise some arguments, concerning the law and the weaknesses and the injustice of the conviction, So yeah, we're not going to leave it there. It certainly is just a stage one, of the process legally. And so the court of appeal is the next step, Of course, constitutional rights to ganja as well too, which have been denied in Dennis Forsyth case. I think also we're definitely going to be testing with this case as well too, because no laws change, no constitutional rights are recognized. That must stand for something. That must supersede, we say, any kind of criminal conviction for dealing. So the struggle continues. No doubt. Struggle continues. We definitely be having updates on the case and go through the justice system.
And again, we'll bring the eye forward as we develop. I know that RMO is planning a sustained campaign on this issue and other issues. So we definitely, myself and Ross Marcus have been advising the RMO as legal counsel. So the link is there. The work is happening, family. It's beautiful. The eye is not a social media man. You have any social media you share or anything? How do people retain the eye services? The eye have your practice. How can people retain the eye service or get a consultation, legal consultation with the eye?
You can check out the website. The website is there of my law firm, Goff Law. So it's www.goffelaw.org. Gofflaw.org is there, with information and so forth. Otherwise, my email is marcus.goff@gmail.com. So one can always reach out to me there. So, and of course, you can reach out as well through Lion Talk Live, and there's much classic, contact information.
Yeah, man. Drop a comment. We'll link you with the brethren. We had such a nice dinner one at the time there with the Queen, and we have to do that again when we forward at Jamaica with the family. I'm see the family expanding. Very happy to see that, the example of community workers who are maintaining, thriving families. We want to see that, and we promote that. So big up yourself. Family, we have reached the end of this journey. This is just the beginning. You know that when someone come on Lion Talk or Lion Voice, them is just a start. We're building a community. We're building a family here. These are the frontline workers. These are the voices. We are controlling the narrative. We're not allowing third parties to define the movement anymore. We're going to use the technology. We're going to let you hear from the ones who do the actual work. I have some big interviews getting ready to drop on the platform. We're going to upload. We have a full interview with Sandy Davis from our partnership with I Never Knew TV. It's gone 40,000, one clip over there. So I'm going to upload the full interview here on the Lion Voice Network. We have Danny Dredd Danny Dreadlocks, Bob Marley selector. Him said he's the first person who get the dub played for War from Bob Marley directly. We have that interview exclusive. We're getting ready for drop. We have Cool Herc. We're gonna drop that into beer things 2024. So make sure if you're not subscribed, you subscribe to the platform. Why you want to subscribe? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion Voice.
Yeah, man, this is Danny Dreadlock telling you, say, the time has come for the lion story to be heard, you know? Here, there, everywhere. Have no fear. The lion story. And this is the Lion Voice. Seeing production. Every time.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, be the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.